Hello money nerds. We have a wild and outrageous story for you today. You won't believe the lengths that some people will go to in order to pull off a scam. In this video, we'll be talking about the story of a notorious scammer who managed to sell a fake airport to a bank. Yes, you heard that right. Emmanuel Nwood, a Nigerian scammer who managed to sell a fake airport to a Brazilian bank, was involved in one of the most fascinating scams that occurred between 1995 and 1998. Such a scam is unlikely to succeed in today's world, as people are more aware of scams as a result of the worldwide increase in internet scams. Nowadays, few people believe those emails promising us fortunes that appear to fall from the sky. The scam. The scam's mastermind, Emmanuel Nwood, previously worked as a director of the Union Bank of Nigeria. His banking background provided him with knowledge, documentation, and links that made him more credible when it came to carrying out his scam. Emmanuel's experience as a bank director meant that he knew how to conduct himself in a business setting and probably exuded confidence that put his victims at ease. To carry out his scheme, Emmanuel impersonated Paul Agwema, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria at the time. Emmanuel Ofolu, Obumosakwe, Nzerabi Akoli, and the Ikachukwus, a husband and wife duo, were his accomplices. Emmanuel was able to contact Nelson Sakaguchi, the then director of the Brazilian bank Banco Noroeste, with the help of his accomplices and his new identity. Emmanuel proposed that the Brazilian bank invest in the construction of a new airport in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, to help develop the Nigerian economy. Emmanuel sweetened the deal for Nelson by informing him that if the deal went through, he would be eligible for a $10 million commission. Nelson was enticed by the promise of a large payout and fell for the scam. Between 1995 and 1998, he paid the con artists $191 million in cash and the remaining $51 million in interest from Banco Noroeste. The scam falls apart. Emmanuel and his crew almost got away with the scam. However, things began to fall apart when Banco Santander, a Spanish bank, attempted to take over the Brazilian bank in August 1997. Because of the takeover, the Brazilian bank's financial statements were thoroughly investigated. During this time, the two banks held numerous board meetings, and in December 1997, top officials from the Spanish bank questioned why nearly half of the Brazilian bank's capital was sitting in an unprotected account in the Cayman Islands. Because this disparity could not be adequately explained because Abuja did not have a new airport, formal investigations were launched. Criminal investigations had to be conducted in a number of jurisdictions, including Brazil, Nigeria, Switzerland, and England. In order for the Brazilian bank's sale to proceed, the bank's owners had to pay the missing $242 million out of their own pockets. Regardless, the Brazilian bank eventually failed. Despite the fact that the scam occurred between 1995 and 1998, Emmanuel and his associates were only brought to court in 2004. Because of the case's complexity, specialized investigations were required. As a result, the criminal investigations did not begin until 2002. This is when Nigeria's then President Olusegun Obasanjo established the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC). When the scammers were brought before the Abuja High Court, they were charged with over 100 counts of fraud and bribery. Initially, they pleaded not guilty. When one of the fraudsters confessed, their defense began to crumble. Despite a confession from one of his accomplices, Emmanuel attempted to evade justice by attempting to bribe the EFCC chairman with $75,000 in cash. This did not go well for him because the chairman refused the bribe, resulting in the addition of additional bribery charges to Emmanuel's docket. Nelson Sakaguchi, the man duped into paying for a non-existent airport, was called as a witness by the prosecutors in the case. Following his testimony, Emmanuel and the remainder of his crew pleaded guilty. Emmanuel was sentenced to 5 years in prison and fined $10 million by the federal government. This appears to be a pittance for someone who defrauded a bank of over $200 million. For him, the fine was most likely a drop in the bucket. This is one of the century's largest banking scams. It's difficult to comprehend how such a scam could have occurred in the first place. A deal worth millions of dollars usually necessitates hours of due diligence by lawyers and other professionals. It's incredible how an established bank could fall victim to such a scam. Why didn't the bank send a crew to Abuja to monitor the airport's construction? Why didn't Nelson probe further? This story raises far more questions than it answers. But one thing is certain. This scam will be studied by bankers for years to come as an integral part of banking history. That's it for today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with our latest content. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.